Adam parked his motorcycle and walked the rest of the way. 3 city blocks was nothing, and the distance certainly helped him stay inconspicuous. Once in the old warehouse district, and out of sight, Adam donned his cowl, and the blue shadow made his way to the closest sculpture. His mission was a simple one: collect an ice sample and take note of anything that seemed suspicious.
Looks like this place isn't too heavily guarded,
Adam said to himself.
But why have it guarded at all?
He watched from the shadows as a man clumsily dropped a beer can and almost tripped over it. Adam hoped he could simply sneak past the impaired watchman. Drunk people were usually pretty easily distracted. He picked up an old shoe he saw sitting forgotten beside the dumpster next to him. Aiming at one of the trash cans a few yards in front of the guard, Adam hurled the sneaker. It hit the mark flawlessly, but the unexpected oversensitive car alarm that went off as the shoe bounced off the can and hit the vehicle's fender did not provide the small distraction Adam had hoped for. The noise echoed through the deserted lot, and another man ran into view.
At least I know there's 2 of them,
Adam thought, as the second man questioned his tipsy partner.
Who's there?
Man number 2 shouted angrily.
Show yourself!
Adam sighed. He hadn't been looking to fight today, but this one seemed unavoidable.
I said show yourself!
The man called again and fired a warning shot into the wailing vehicle's rear tire.
All right,
Adam said as he exited the shadows with his hands raised in mock submission.
I'm cooperating, fellas. No need to hurt the Ford.
The first guard stared at Adam with a stunned sort of awe.
Dude,
he said to his cohort in a hushed but audible voice.
That's that guy, right? That's him, right? The blue shadow. The one and only.
Blue's smirk was unintentional but genuine. It was nice to not be immediately attacked for once. Maybe he'd go easy on these 2. Man number 2 looked to the inebriated with tangible irritation.
Yeah, I know who it is, you drunk idiot. He ain't supposed to be here.
Now how do you know I'm not just passing through? Adam said in a nonchalant tone. That thought seemed to throw the man off his game.
Well, why are you here?
Why are you here? The blue shadow retorted.
We're just doing what we're hired to do.
The inebriated guard hiccuped when he spoke. Adam really didn't want to fight these guys. They clearly weren't professionals.
And that would be to guard the building.
I see, Blue said. Why does an abandoned building need guarding?
What's it to you?
The sober man sounded angry, but he did put his gun back in its holster. Blue shrugged his shoulders.
Curiosity.
The man huffed and rolled his eyes.
Well, that's just too bad.
Sounds like you could use a real distraction. Kathy's voice whispered through Blue's communicator into his ear. Give me 2 minutes. Adam wondered what she had planned to do, but didn't get time to think.
Hey, buddy, that was your invitation to scram!
The sober guard was sounding more irritated.
All right. Like I said, just passing through.
Blue made a slight show of turning around to fade back toward the shadows. If Kathy needed 2 minutes, he could wait it out while hidden. He smirked when, as if on cue, every car alarm in the vicinity started sounding as soon as he took his first step. The 2 guards scrambled for their flashlights and took off into the parking lot. This sudden commotion was more than sufficient. Blue quickly turned back around and stealthily sprinted up to the warehouse doors. They were locked.
Of course those 2 have enough sense to keep the place locked.
He sighed, but remembered the new device Kathy had given him. The dragon key, she'd called it. Only for use in emergencies, or in locks you don't care about using again. He pulled the key-like object from his pocket and removed its insulated cap. It looked like an ordinary skeleton key, but a bit thinner, with a handle that sported a small, safety-locked button.
Pretty tight safety for a little key,
he thought, flipping away the safety.
Remember, Adam, don't press that button until the key is in the lock,
Kathy instructed. He placed the key in the lock and gently pressed the button.
Oh, and don't touch the lock either.
Blue chuckled. Having already assumed things were about to heat up quickly, he watched as a soft orange glow peeked through the keyhole and spread out in tendrils along the metal. Within moments, the entire lock had melted.
Wait, was the key supposed to melt too?
Blue was surprised to see the gadget's handle fall to the ground, completely detached.
Yes.
The reply was small.
It's a one-time use. Not my best work, but at least it had a cool name.
It did its job. That's what matters.
Blue said. He pocketed the now useless handle and pushed open the door. It was a pretty neat tool. He wondered what other gadgets Kathy had been tinkering on in his absence. A chilly blast of air hit his face when the door creaked open.
This place is like a refrigerator,
he said, thankful for his insulated gloves.
Why is it colder in here than it is out in the snow?
Can you see anything?
He clicked on his watch flashlight. Everything the light touched shimmered with a layer of crystallized frost. The windows of the warehouse had been hurriedly closed off with thin metal sheets, causing the little moonlight that did filter in to jut at odd angles. Blue walked further into the open room.
It's kind of creepy in here,
he said mainly to himself as the flashlight beam fell onto the icy feet of another statue.
Are you seeing this okay?
He lifted the flashlight to reveal more of the statue and noticed another behind it.
How cold is it in there? The camera went a little dim.
Kathy sounded irritated and a little staticky.
Sounds like that metal in the windows is causing some interference, too.
Blue continued to scan the area with his light. It kept revealing one statue after another. Kathy's quiet yet audibly frustrated attempts to clear up calms were a small if strange comfort. He walked to a nearby statue that had caught his eye. It was different from the ones outside. This one seemed more crystallized, with jagged edges and far less detail. He examined another. It, too, had discernible flaws.
I've lost the camera feed to low battery. Can you hear me? What are you seeing?
I hear you,
he reassured her, and made his way to another sculpture.
There are a bunch of ice statues in here. Hard to tell how many in the dark, but definitely a lot.
Weird. You think they're going to all get displayed?
He pondered the question.
No,
he decided.
These seem unfinished, or rushed or something. Like maybe these were first attempts. After seeing the amount of detail on the ones outside, these almost look like a different person made them.
If that's all you're seeing, maybe it's time to head back. The equipment acting up has me worried. Can't have you turning into a popsicle when we just got you back.
Blue sighed. He'd hoped to find more, but she was probably right. There didn't seem to be much to discover in this building, and he was getting cold. He turned his head back towards the entrance where the moonlight helped to direct his path to the door. He was nearly there when he heard a loud click, and suddenly the warehouse was filled with a fluorescent yellow light. He blinked fast, trying to adjust his focus.
Someone's here,
he said with a low growl.
Things may get interesting after all.
Who's there? A loud and irritated voice called out. Blue stepped into the shadow of some crates. The man, visibly breathing a thick, foggy breath in the sub-zero temperatures, held a flashlight and a crowbar probably left laying around to open said crates. The door's open, and the boys out front say they saw someone. If you make me stay 1 second longer in this icebox, I'm gonna make you pay. Happy he hadn't been seen, Blue turned to sneak out the back, and suddenly came up short. His eyes wide with surprise as a statue stood in front of him, with a very frightened look on its very realistic face. Too realistic.
What's wrong? Problem?
Kathy's voice connection was getting worse, but she must have heard him gasp.
It's nothing. Don't worry.
Blue pulled up a small camera he used before, the new audio-video bug Kathy had made. He took a few pictures.
Can't risk the flash. This'll have to do,
he thought.
Nightingale, I took some pictures. Let's hope they turn out well when it's cold,
he said as he turned the corner away from the last place he heard the voice of the guard come from.
Gotcha!
Blue looked to the right and saw the thug. He must have circled around. He was bundled up and now hurtling toward him for a tackle. Blue waited till the last second and then sidestepped. He tripped the man and let him slam into a crate. The crate creaked with a low groan and splintered. Blue looked up. To his shock, another statue stood on top of it, now teetering wildly. Blue dashed forward. A vital lead was about to be nothing but shattered debris in a moment, and if it hit this man too hard... The other man was busy extracting himself from the broken boards he had smashed as Blue ran up, used the thug's shoulder as a footstool, and grabbed the statue as she fell. It was never easy catching another person, let alone one made so heavy and slick with ice. The sculpture's elevated starting point, An unwieldy posture didn't help matters. Blue found himself in a controlled crash, tumbling onto the ground, and narrowly saving the fragile figure from the formerly inevitable impact that would have surely shattered it. He sighed a breath of relief. The thug, however, yelled as he swung a bit of crate plank at Blue and his new friend. Blue shifted the ice lady to the side and rolled the other way as fast as he could. The board's steel nails struck the cold floor with some sparks. Blue tactically stood and gathered his surroundings. Countless statues stood around him. He looked up. 3 more peered at him from above like sad and pitiful gargoyles. The man swung his stick as he charged. Blue dodged to the side and grabbed the man's wrist, and then smashed his elbow and smashed his head into a crate. But then Blue was forced to kick him away instead of knocking him out, as another ice statue fell forward from the impact. Blue caught it and staggered backwards. The man shook his head and looked on at Blue, humorously trying to balance the statue. The thug grinned.
I'm paid to keep people out, not keep the merch intact, but you seem pretty keen on not letting it break.
Blue looked up, surprised to see the thug, with a wicked grin, beginning to violently shake a crate. Blue could hear ice impacting ice as whatever was inside the crates rattled together. He threw a boomerang that impacted off the man's head. The thug grunted out in pain and staggered, holding the bloody spot, and causing yet another statue to wobble as he passed. Blue ran forward and steadied it, hoping that the ones inside the crate hadn't been damaged. He then turned to the enraged man, who was angrily looking at the blood on his hand. The man drew a knife.
If I clean up your blood, they won't even know you were here.
It was an empty threat, for the man found himself unable to move. The freezing temperature in the room was working against him. The moisture on his hand from the sweat and blood had caused it to freeze solid to the sculpture he had unintentionally hit during his bravado.
Ah!
The man jerked his hand, attempting to free himself, but his efforts only caused the ice to topple. Blue sprinted forward, but it was too late. Bam! The man was tackled by the jagged statue. He tried to get up, but he was pinned. Blue mercifully knocked him out and dragged him out of the building, where the police could collect him in a noticeably warmer environment.
Blue, are you there?
I hear you, but I've got to go back inside. I have to take a closer look at something.
Blue quickly ran back to where the statue had thwarted his attacker. He was sure he'd heard a crack when part of it hit the concrete floor. He was right. With the lights on now, and no more need to focus on a battle, it was much easier to see everything in the warehouse. The icy faces filling the place sent a chill down his already cold spine. A sizable chunk of ice had broken off the arm of the toppled figure. If the police were on the way for a break-in, he would need to find out as much as he could right now. He swept a sample of ice into a container and placed it in a pocket on his belt. He then turned to the sculpture, not knowing what he was looking for, but his gut was telling him something was wrong. Very wrong. The cold was getting to him. With a slight grunt, he hoisted the statue back to her feet. The pain that looked back at him was so human, it made his heart ache. But that wasn't the worst of it.
Nightingale,
Blue whispered.
These aren't statues.
What you mean?
The calm crackled.
They're people.
Sure, mannequin?
No, I'm sure,
he confirmed with a ghastly expression on his masked face, as he stared dumbfounded at what the lost chunk of ice had revealed. Tattered cloth and a pale green glove clung tightly to eerie blue skin. The ice woman's expression of pure terror finally made sense. He stepped back outside to be sure his directions could be heard and followed.
I need you to send an ambulance to this location.
Of course, are you okay?
It's not for me.
He hid himself in the nighttime shadows, and gathering his wits, made the trip back to his motorcycle.
Talk to me, please, Blue. What happened?
He drew a shaky breath.
I don't know how it's possible, but there are real people under that ice. Real human people.
What?
Is the ambulance...
It's on its way. Real people?
Adam put on his bike helmet and revved the engine.
I'm heading back now. Did you alert the police?
They're en route now. Should be there in about a minute.
Good. Good.